Okay, welcome along to the final of our webinar series. Tonight's is on provisioning. So provisioning is quite an interesting topic. We've got Robyn Brooke here to join us with it. Don't worry about the screen up there. As normal, we're going to mute everyone apart from presenters, and we'll get questions in via the chat function. We'll keep you muted if that's all right, just so there's no noise. I'm hoping everyone can hear me okay. Perhaps if someone could just give me a note saying they could hear me okay. Just an update on the race. We've still got our 29 entrants. 3 of them are at risk, and thanks Annette for sending it through. 29 entrants, 3 are at risk, and by at risk I mean there's issues happening within their lives that may see them pull out. They're hoping not to pull out, but they are at risk. We've had one new entrant, which is quite exciting, a bit of a rocket ship, a very large boat called Chinese Whisper. It's doing Sydney Hobart this year, if you want to have a look at the boat. That's going to take quite a bit of brawn and skill to get that thing across the start line and the finish line, but it'll be exciting nonetheless. We've updated our notice of race. We haven't actually changed anything. What we've done is we've taken amendments 1 and 3 and put it into the one document, just so it makes it easier for you guys rather than trying to read 4 or 5 different documents and figuring out what's changed. We've got our draft sailing instructions out, as you know. We are going to look at an amendment soon to cover the use of drones. Now, it was raised by a competitor, use of drones and the outside interference potentially, and we've made a decision that for the purposes of media and PR only, they will be allowed, because we do want some of the video to get out of drone footage of the fleet, and I think you'd all agree that that's going to make an exciting race for our followers, families and friends. The Gill clothing, that's due soon. I've got George Shaw with me, and he's quite excited about the Gill clothing. That's not far away. You would have seen that start times have been published, the dates, and I hope everyone's happy enough with their start time. We haven't heard any feedback contrary. We've got about 9 boats in the first start, 2 or 3 in the last start, and the remainder in the main start. So our start times, as a reminder, 18th is the first start, 25th is the main start, 1st is the final start. The only other thing that's popped up recently, Sandringham at the club here, and only for those in Melbourne it's of use, are doing another way day on the 11th of December. There's a question coming about, are we going to do another way day prior to the race? Look, we'll try and connect people, but the race itself won't be organising a way day. But if enough competitors are keen on a way day, we can try and help with Sandringham to make that happen for you. Now, the lead-up race calendar is huge. There's 4 different races on and to choose from, and you don't have to do them, obviously, but we've got our Australian Yachting Championships at Sandringham are running in the 19th and 21st of January. This is probably from fully crewed boats with their IRC and AMS, or mainly IRC actually. We've got Sail Peninsula Regatta, which has been promoted by one of our competitors, Rod Smallman, and he's very keen to see some competitors get down to Sail Peninsula Regatta towards the end of February. We've got the inaugural ORCV Melbourne to Hobart West Coaster race. That starts on the 27th, and that'd be quite an exciting race to do two-handed if your boat's in Melbourne. It's a good qualifier. We've got 11 Osaka competitors, which makes it for a pretty exciting race. I think there's about 13 or 14 all up two-handed entries in that race, which is terrific. And finally, with Festival Sales, anyone who knows Melbourne knows there's a large regatta on in the end of January, and Festival of Sales have created a division for the two-handers for the passage race down, which will be very exciting. George, we've got our social calendar, and maybe if you want to talk to that, it's now probably one of the things to say, it's not a mandatory thing. You don't have to come to all this stuff, but there's an awful lot of things on if you want to, and probably more so for families and supporters. But George, you want to talk to any of these?
Yes, Martin. It's getting very, very close now. We're only 4 months away from the start, and I thought we should let the entrants know some of the things that we have got planned. The Sunday before the first start, that Sunday the 11th of March, one of our competitors, Rod Smallman, has opened his vineyard, Chirping Bird Vineyard at Murray-Dark on the Mornington Peninsula, to entrants and their families. And we're going to have a picnic in the vineyard. Now, again, this is voluntary for those who want to come, and you'll be getting an invitation shortly to the event. And it's going to be a no-cost event. Did I hear a sigh about that? A no-cost event. We are going to have all the meat donated for the spit roast. The wines have been donated by Chirping Bird, and the rest of the what we're going to eat is also going to be donated. What is also very interesting is that in the next suburb is the Tyab Airport, and on that same day, there's going to be all the warbirds flying, and we're hoping we're going to get flyovers of the vineyard by these magnificent warbird aircraft. If you haven't heard a Mustang in full flight, that Merlin engine, it is something to behold. So there's an opportunity not only to visit the vineyard, but also to go to the Tyab Air Show. The following Monday is a public holiday, and that's a day of rest. The following day, Tuesday, is the day when you'll be able to practice for the State of Origin series. The notice of race for this will be coming out very shortly, but you'll be able to practice in the morning and then do your race in the afternoon. And
this is a teams event, right?
This is a teams event. And this will be on the Sandringham club boats. These are 7.4 Venetos. And this, once you find out what the prizes are, I'm sure you're going to want to enjoy that, because the prizes are going to be very, very attractive. On the Wednesday, this is going to be the civic reception in the Melbourne City Council chambers. And again, you'll be getting a personal invitation to attend that. Each entrant and crew member or co-skipper will be able to bring one additional person, and that will be held at the Melbourne City Council. We're looking to see whether it might be an idea to run a convoy up to Docklands and then go on the free trams to the Melbourne City Council, but there will be more information, and again, that will be voluntary if you want to put your boats in the convoy. On the Thursday, we're trying to book the AMSA people, the immigration, and also customs to come and give a introduction on what is expected. And on the Friday, for the first starters, we have booked the restaurant at Sandringham for, can I say, the Last Supper. So that's something that you'll also be advised of shortly, so you can indicate whether you want to attend the Last Supper with your family, and then we will sort out the arrangements from that. On the Saturday, this is going to be a very, very exciting day. This is the day when we're going to have the blessing of the fleet. It is also St. Patrick's Day, and our local Sandringham a member who performs these ceremonies suggests that he might have to get a green habit for this particular day. We also have the taiko drummers booked, 5 taiko drummers who will be performing. So after the blessing of the fleet, that's around the middle of the day, we're going to have a Japanese barbecue, which will again be free to all entrants and their families. And afterwards, we're looking to clear customs, immigration, and then have the boats sail down to Blairgowrie for the start on Sunday morning off the Portsea Pier. I think that's that particular week sorted out.
All right, thanks, George. And more information will come out about that as we go on. Now, I'm very excited to present or introduce Robyn Brooke, who's sitting next to me. Robyn was an Osaka competitor in 2003 on boots with George Shaw. Robyn's an organising committee member, and Robyn's a smiling face which will greet a lot of families in Osaka and help them with that transition. But one of her passions is the provisioning of the food on the boat, and she's been kind enough to present tonight. So welcome along, Robyn.
Thanks very much, Martin. Excuse my voice, it's a little bit croaky tonight. I feel like I've been doing this presentation, well, I have been doing this presentation since
15 years.
15, George says, 15 years. And it's changed significantly, and I'm not sure how up to date I am with it, because my last long distance offshore shorthanded or even fully crewed race was probably about 3 years ago. So when I go around the supermarket now, I'm amazed at the amount of shelf stable items you can actually find without having to worry about refrigeration. Anyway, to start off with, going back only 200 years, did you show the ship's biscuits and wheels slide? When you think about it, 200 years is not that long. And the diet of the Royal Navy in the early 1800s was salt preserved beef, dried peas, oatmeal, and the ubiquitous ship's biscuit, which was supplemented with a gallon of beer a day. So we've changed somewhat in that a lot of boats are dry. You don't have alcohol, but certainly we have the opportunity to enhance our sailing and decrease the food on board. The sailors used to develop, in the 1800s, the practice of tapping their ship's biscuit on their plate to dislodge the weevils. But now I think you'd call it, you'd eat them because it's a bit of meat group. So what I wanted to, that's my experience of sailing on boats. Provisioning on boats. I sailed from Sydney to Germany. I got shipwrecked off the number 9 Ribbon Reef. There were 13 people on board. Didn't have much knowledge or much to do with the provisioning there. But then from that I went on to the prawn trawlers up in the Gulf of Carpentaria, while the skipper went back to Germany and tried to work out how to organise a boat to sort out the contract that I had with him to sail to Germany. And I took the cooking class cookbook with me, and I took the chopsticks and the pizza trays, but there'd been so many people who'd come before me, so many cooks who'd come before me. It was there that I learned how to bake bread, and I used to have a bodyguard every time we went ashore for parties when we weren't prawning, because they wanted to make sure that I came back to the boat because I love to cook so much. I remember once when we tied up to another prawn trawler, and I said to the boys, "Is that a naked woman on the top of the wheelhouse there?" And they said, "Oh, yeah, it is." I like the look of her. And the skipper came over to talk to me when we tied up and said, "Robyn, can you please tell her how to cook scrambled eggs? She's hopeless." So, the boys thought she was fantastic, but they really wanted good food. And that's what we're about. So Germany to the Caribbean, I got to provision the boat for 10 months. And that was really interesting, sauerkraut and all the rest of it, and I learned a lot about it there. And then chartering in the West Indies, cruising on the South Pacific in a racing yacht, the Sydney to Hobart, the East and West Coasters, the Offshore Championship, the Melbourne to Osaka, which was really interesting, and 3 of the Vanuatu races. So I wanted to talk about how important food is to you, and I've broken it down into 10, well, there's 11 there, but 10, I forget the last one really, unless you run out of food. But get help is the most important message that I think I can give to you at this stage. And I'm really conscious of the fact that every yacht has sails, but when it comes to provisioning, every yacht is different. So it depends on whether you've got refrigeration, whether you've got a freezer, whether you've got a generator, whether you don't want this guy, for example. So I would suggest that you get help. You get somebody who you can allocate this job to, somebody who understands what the challenge is, i.e. they've been on a long distance offshore race on a yacht. They understand the limitations of what you can and what you can't do, and power conservation, and they understand your galley and the equipment that you've got. And the most important thing of all is you don't want this guy who's obviously got a few apple trees in the backyard, but you want somebody who's organised. So next is the centre of effort. How important is it to you? In the race that we did in 2003, we got to know the other competitors, and we're walking around here, Sandringham Marina, where they all were, and I obviously had food coming and going every time I came down to the boat. But they'd say to me, "Oh, where'd you get your food from, and what are you doing?" Or I'd say to them, "What are you doing for provisioning?" And they said, "Oh, I haven't thought about that yet, and this is a week out." And my mum had found a supplier over in New Zealand who supplied the Australian Army, and as a backup, I got their food, some of those samples, so that if my refrigeration died, I still had this food that could be eaten hot or cold or whatever. So you need to decide what you want on your boat and how much time you want to devote to it. But I can say that from working on the prawn trawlers, the only thing that we could really change from day to day was the food that we had, and it was really important, and we had a fantastic time because I put a lot of effort into what the boys were eating. So it's up to you, and so we'll move on and explore what it is. It can be easy. I saw last Osaka race, I saw a boat that was putting on a pallet of what appeared to be a pallet of juice and a pallet of tuna, and that was about it. So I thought, that would be a really boring boat to sail to Osaka on. And then I saw me myself, because of my bread making, I used it to make pizzas, to make all sorts of things. So when you've got time, and you do have about a 3-hour window every day in this race where it's your time and you can choose what you want to do. George usually read a book, but I usually baked and cooked and whatever. So that's what I did. So if you're that way inclined, or if you want to share the load, they're the things you need to think about now in your preparation, and give to your food management guy or girl who's going to help you to get this all happening. But what I think I'm saying is that you're looking for variety. So you're looking I know that probably the Vanuatu race is high in your thoughts most times when you've got downtime, which is when you're having lunch and dinner. So think about what you're eating, think about what you like, think about, would this be possible on board? Think about whether it fits the structure of my boat. Have I got the equipment for it? I was doing a pavlova when we were last in Vanuatu. Because of the French influence over there, they've got these fantastic pavs. They've got the market there with the passion fruit and the banana and whatever. I picked up the cream. I got on board and I realised I didn't have a beater. So what I did was I stuck something in the end of the drill and I whipped up the cream.
The paint stirrer.
The patent stirrer.
Paint.
Oh, the paint stirrer, is that what I use? Anyway, so, think about what you're doing and keep a little notebook and jot them down and give it to your food guy so that you can incorporate those sorts of things into it. You need to, some of the partnerships aren't that well developed. And you probably don't know each other as well as you think you do. So it's good to have a conversation over a beer about what you like to eat. Might not even beer, they might not like beer. So talk about it. There's the skipper, what my skipper hates is tuna, sardines, mussels. Tuna, the number one food, the practical food on a boat, tuna, he won't eat it. He doesn't eat soup, so all those one pot dinners, he won't eat them. So, you got to think about, you got to work out what it is that you don't like and work out what it is that you do like and eliminate those foods from what you're going to put on board. Okay, what's your boat's capacity? Have you got an inverter? Have you got a wind gen? So is power an issue or not an issue when you're do you have a microwave? A microwave would be fantastic. That one on the right, the top right, is a single burner on a gimbal, and it was Gusto. That's the way she went to Osaka in the last race. Was it last race?
Mm.
Yeah, amazing. And have you got a water maker? Foods, pasta. You can't really cook pasta and use your water supply. You can with rice because it's absorption and you're going to eat it, but with pasta you throw it out. Or you can wash the dishes, sure, but we wash the dishes in salt water. So these are all the considerations that you need to take into account when you're provisioning. Yeah, so there's my boat. That's my galley. It's pretty lovely. I don't have a microwave. It's not my galley. But it is a J44, and I'm going to show that photo to George.
But even with a microwave, you can steam things and there's lots of things you can do.
Did you have a microwave?
We did, which hardly ever worked because it was temperamental. But we had a steamer, a really good steamer, and we steamed everything. Yeah,
well, there's a guy on YouTube who's up in the Whitsundays, and he cooks in pressure cooker. You've got to take a pressure cooker. And he puts a little pallet worth having a look at. And he cooks in, a cup of water. He steams all his meals. Yeah, so he's very conservative. So that double fridge, I mean, I'm really lucky. But you go to the next one, yeah, and some boats are like that. And so it depends what your boat's like. So tell me what you got and we'll have a chat about it. And I've got Bernie Moore here, who is a dietitian, and she designed a nutrition-based table for Robyn Hewitt, who's done 2 Osakas, based on what the body needs. And that's in this presentation. And she's available. Rosie's Colohan's available. We've got so many people who have done these long offshore races who'd be more than happy to sit down with you and do this analysis.
Because you lose weight, don't you? You burn calories and just lose weight.
Yeah, it's about the only time I've ever lost weight sailing, because I cook so much and eat so much and drink so much. Let's move on. Okay, so this is an important, it wasn't around in, yes it was around in 2003, and you want to beg, borrow or steal one. I established a business relationship with my butcher, and he'd been there since I was a kid, and I knew his equipment was amazing. There are 3 grades of equipment. There's the Cryovac machine you have at home. There's the one that they have in the butcher shop or whatever, but they are becoming more and more safe as far as food management goes. That piece of meat there looks pretty good to me. That piece of meat will last you all the way to Osaka. And there's the ones on the supermarket shelves that have to be, bigger than Ben-Hur. They have to be really safe as far as leakage and temperature and maintenance. And the thickness of the bags is really important as well. But beg, borrow or steal a Cryovac machine, because you will be taking at least the first 3 weeks of your food. If you want fresh food, that's how you'll be packing it. It packs flat. You stick it in you freeze it, you put it in the bottom of your freezer, and it assists to conserve your energy, to reduce your energy consumption because of the temperature. What I do with things like lasagna, for example, is you freeze it first, because if you try and Cryovac that, you're just going to get a squished mess. So, and the same with stews, if you like curries and things, same sort of thing. You've got to freeze them first, or else they just don't seal properly. So a Cryovac is really important. And thermal cooking is something that I haven't used, but it's become very popular in the last few years. And a few of my friends and a lot of the women who sail Australia and women who sail the world, there are a couple of Facebook pages that I'm on, and they're constantly talking about stuff that they make. And they're really good. You you put a bit of hot water in the pot, you stick it into the thermal, you let it sit for a few minutes to heat it up like you would if you were using a thermos. And then you take the pot out, use that water for something, and then you brown your meat, your onions and whatever. You throw all your vegetables in. You pack it up so that there's less airspace. You stick it back in that thermal container. You turn it off, so it's only 10 minutes to cook your food, and then you put it in there, and then 5 hours later you've got a fully cooked hot meal. They are really popular, so if you want to conserve energy, that's a good one too. I found that these, we had one on board called Mimi. I found it in a $2 shop in 2003, and she was fantastic for cooking pancakes. Takes forever, so you put them in Mimi, and then you go on watch, and the person comes off watch, and the food is all still hot. So, yeah. And I found a square one online too. The problem with a lot of this stuff is it's round, so it doesn't fit very well in your cupboards. So think carefully when you're buying stuff to go for storage. It's really important to maximise your space, as you know. And you'll be moving all your tools, of course, into... Now, you've done all your hard work, like George did all the preparation, and then I worked really hard on the race. So I produced all the food, did about eight meals a day. A meal can comprise of, in bad weather, a cup of coffee and a piece of cake. But, to produce that 8 times a day in watch handover can be a bit of a challenge. So that's why I'm saying here that rice today, fried rice tomorrow. When you're planning your meals, obviously what you're doing today your leftovers will be used in another meal tomorrow, so you don't have to cook sort of every day. Small portions and variety we found suited us. It may not suit everybody, but it's, as I said, nice to get up and have a snack when you're doing watch changeover. The person who's coming up sticks the kettle on, unless you've got a thermos that's got the hot water in it, sticks the kettle on for the person who's coming down, and that way, you've got this sort of just a bit of an energy boost and increase your just wake you up really. And so once you've done all that, you've got your 30 days, 35 days, 40 days, everything's on board, stored away. You've got to then work out how to pack it. So you've got to work out, what am I going to use this day? What am I going to use this week? What am I going to access every day? That cardboard box there has got to go. You must decant everything for space, and also for weevils and for bugs that get into the cardboard. You don't want anything like that. It gets wet, so it's revolting, and you don't want to throw it overboard. You don't want to increase the amount of waste that you're creating. So you need a Sharpie pen, and you need to get rid of all of that. And you write on stuff. Okay, let's keep going. So there's the provisioning list that Bernie did for Robyn. And I'll stick all of this stuff on the web. I mean, the previous slides probably aren't that important, but this sort of stuff is, and I'll make sure that I get some gear together and put it on the web for you. If you want to have it, I've spoken with Bernie tonight, and she's more than happy to speak with you if you want to have a chat with her about your requirements. So go for it. This is a very, very simple list, but of course Robyn says at the bottom, shop for whatever you want in a food group up to the weight required. If you see something you like better, replace it and keep the total correct. So this is going back. When did Robyn do his first race? 99?
Years ago, yeah.
Earlier.
Might have been even, before that. So this is a very old list, but I'm going to ask her to revise it and see if she's got any update on it, and change maybe the grams to, I don't know, where. The boat galley. So if you haven't got a fridge, this is the spreadsheet. Download the spreadsheet. This is free, and download the instructions. Go to the next one.
So on our useful links page, Ian's going to be putting up that the next day or so, and so you'll be able to download that.
Yeah, so stick everything on this list, but copy and paste and insert the rows, because they've got a lot of formulas in them. And the categories, obviously, you can design your own, but read the instructions before you use it, and you'll be able to work out your shopping list. Once you've got you've built up that list of menus of what you actually think you'll be able to cook on the boat, or what you want to have, then you can break it down into ingredients, put it on this list, and then there's your shopping list. This one, storing food without refrigeration, is also good for people who have refrigeration, because the fridge is not necessarily that big, and this gives you temperatures.
It may break a week out.
Yeah, ours broke on the way back. I had to drink warm beer all the way home. It's terrible. So storing food without refrigeration gives you temperatures you should keep food at. It's got a lot of suggestions and hints. This woman, Carolyn, she's been living on her yacht for 10 years, and this is her passion, is sort of getting information out there. So the Boat Galley website is just the best place. And I think storing food without refrigeration is $7 or something. I've got it. I don't know if I can flick it around. Storage, I found, I don't use these containers, but anything you can grab with one hand and undo with your teeth is a bonus, because you can hang on with one hand while you're doing. I'm talking to people who cook here, so and sail. Yeah. So containers, give it some thought. Get everything off your boat. Delouse your boat, and then leave it for a week, and then start to pack it with the containers that you want, and work out what you want to go where. Decant, label, and this is what I was telling you about Ziplocs. I didn't actually know that there was a brand called Ziploc, but I found. Type up your meal ideas from when you're having something. Just put the name of the meal that you've had, and then look it up on the web and get the ingredients, and your boat guy, your meal guy, your provisioning guy can do all this for you. You just tell them, I want to have a bun mi or whatever it is for, I think we can do this on the boat. Work it out. Waste management is really important. I don't think there's anybody who sails who doesn't understand about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. There's lots of pictures on the web of it, and we need to do our bit to reduce the amount of waste that goes into our oceans.
People are not going to be throwing stuff overboard. Let's just get that clear in the race. They're not going to be throwing stuff overboard, apart from organics.
I throw organics over. And that picture on the right-hand side is the recycling plant in Osaka. It looks like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And just behind it, you can see Osaka Yoko Boat Harbour, which is where our destination is. Sorry, I'm going over.
No, that's all right. Just on the waste, we found, rinsing your waste is going to cut down the smells on the boat no end. So every bit of packaging we rinsed.
It really is a big issue.
Okay. Yeah. So for those who don't have a fridge, you can try these fridge-free real food things. I just think, they say that they're fantastic, but I've never found one that tastes any good. I put this in because this is an Australian certified organic, loaded with good whatevers, kale and carrot, forget the kale, but traditional sauerkraut. And I love sauerkraut on a boat, and I throw all sorts of caraway seeds and all sorts of stuff in it, and it goes really well with Deb, and I just love it. So I think you should take some, because scurvy is a real issue on boats.
Hey, if I can jump in here, we just got back from a fall drive trip, and we found there's these plastic bag products now for vegetables. I don't know what they got in them at supermarkets, special bags, and they make the veggies last about 3 times longer than if you don't use the bags.
They're called Robs. They're green.
They're incredible.
Yeah,
they are absolutely amazing.
I'll put them on the list as well. Yeah, and of course, if anybody wants to do freeze-dried meals, I don't know why you would, but I know that for one of our previous Vanuatu races, we organised a discount. So I'll be doing that between now and race start, organising some discounts at places. But I need some feedback from you about what you want. Yeah, so this is what they say about this freeze-dried stuff. I like the idea that it's 100% Australian, but I don't like the fact that it says great flavour, because it doesn't. That's a bit of a stretch, revolting. Yeah, keep going. And then the girls on who've gone away this weekend, they've got these. They've done a special deal, but they've got this flameless heater pack. So these are about $5 or $6 a pop, and you throw your freeze-dried meal in there with the water in it, and then you put a bit of water on the cells inside this ridiculous bag. I mean, this to me sounds harder than making a roast lamb and veggies on the boat. So I don't quite understand it, but I thought I'd put it up there just to let you know that it's all available. But this, ask the experts, is what you need to do. The boat galley, Carolyn's fantastic. Flick me an email and tell me what you want, we'll have a chat, work out your situation if you need a hand. If you don't need a hand, great. But if you do, just certainly get in touch with us. That's what we're here for.
So what we could do now, Robyn, if you want, we can unmute everybody, and if anyone wants to actually ask a question, you could press your audio button, perhaps one at a time, and literally ask the question. Or you might even have a tip or something you want to add to the mix. I know when we did the Osaka race, we ate pre-cooked for the first week, fresh for the next 2 weeks, and then just the dried stuff for the last one. And we actually ended up with some reasonable amount of veggies for week 2 and 3. Because we like fresh. We just like eating fresh. But I don't know if anyone's got questions. You want to go to the chat? Anyone around the table? We've got a few people here at the table.
Yeah, I have a comment. I don't know whether Robyn would agree, but I find that when I buy substances such as rice, barley, oats, that sort of thing, that are subject to getting weevils, if you put it in the freezer for 24 hours before you open the packet and decant it, and is able to somehow kill whatever the little weevils are that are living inside the packet in the first place. So
that's a good point.
It's a good tip. Seems to work. It's worked for me.
Thank you.
Hi, Robyn and Martin. Awesome webinar. I just wanted to say something I picked up a long time ago on in around cruise ships, where hygiene is a thing, is rice, boiled rice. If you boil rice and you eat just boiled rice, generally speaking, it'll fix up any gastro in any situation. I just wanted to put that input in and ask if you thought that's very relevant.
Okay, so the comment, and I'm not sure if the audio came across, was about the suggestion that boiled rice is very, very good for fixing gastro issues. I think as long as you don't keep that boiled rice in the fridge too long. But a suggestion was it's quite good for solving gastro. I don't know personally, but I'll take your word for it.
Carolyn will talk about the temperatures to keep that in her book. But a friend of mine, Johnny Petkovsek, he brought one of the Osaka boats, one of the Japanese boats, down to Melbourne for the start in whatever year it was, 2007, I think it was. And he said, oh my God, it was rice, and then they would open this little can, and every day the can was different, but the rice was the same. And he said, after 5 days, he said, I just didn't want to look at another bit of rice. He said, but by the time I got to Melbourne, I loved it.
Yeah,
it worked for me. It was really good.
Fresh, isn't it? It's fresh.
Yeah, it's just the variety thing that I worry about. I don't think there's anything wrong with rice, but I think it's great. But as Martin said, I would be very, very wary about how you keep it. If you can't keep it cool to make fried rice the next day, then I would ditch it, or to make a sweet dish. And that's something I forgot to mention. Don't forget the sweets. We didn't take enough, and I know that on other boats they said the same thing. You forget how much actually sweet stuff you actually enjoy in your diet. Not stupid food, but not Mars bars and stuff. Well, maybe a few, but just a dessert now and then, or some canned fruit, or to have with your breakfast is really, really good.
Any other questions or comments? No, I might just then wrap up. One suggestion, clean your fridge out at the end of week 3. I cleaned our fridge out after spilling some milk and found a Cryovac eye fillet steak at the very bottom that I didn't even know was there. So it all works. Robyn, thank you so much for the effort you put in. I know you put in a lot of preparation, and on behalf of everyone here, I appreciate that. We're going to put this on the intranet site, as we always do. The other thing is we're going to be available for discussion as people start coming to Melbourne and the race changes in its nature. These sort of internet-based webinars drop off, and the mentoring and the hands-on help really kicks in. All right, so thanks everyone. Thanks for your time. I'll call this a stop, and we'll see you in Melbourne.